Hi, I'm Jenny Fish from One Big Happy Yarn Company. We want to be your local yarn shop no matter where you are. Welcome back to our Wave on Wave knit along. We're using the Madeline Tosh Merino Light Plus Copper to make this gorgeous drop stitch and twisted smock stitch scarf. In the last episode, we cast on and learned how to make these lacy drop stitches. In this episode, I'll show you how to work the twisted smock stitch. Then we'll finish up with the edging and we'll watch the magic happen when you block this beautiful scarf. If you still need supplies, check out onebighappy.com. Let's get started. Okay, the twisted smock stitch. Now when you look at your pattern, in the last episode we left off on row 24. Row 25 is exactly the same as row 1, so go ahead and work that. You're going to be working your drop stitches starting after the first stitch. So you'll knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over twice, follow that through. Then you're going to go ahead and do straight knit stitch. On the next row you'll knit and drop like normal, like you have been doing. You should be very familiar with that at this point. Then you'll do garter stitch for 4 more rows. Then we're ready to do the twisted smock stitch, which is the TWK2 tog. So I want to show you how we work that row. I am currently working on row 32. I'm on the wrong side of my work. Okay, so here we go to do the twisted smock stitch. We'll knit 2, 1 and 2. Then on the third stitch, we're working the TWK2 tog. Okay, are you ready for this? It's a little bit different than what you're used to, but we're going to come down here. So you're working on the wrong side. You're going to flip it over and look at the right side upside down. You're going to go over 3 stitches. And I'm looking here at the top of the longest elongated stitch from underneath. We're going to pick up this purl bump here and twist it and slide it onto your needle just like that. Now you're going to knit that with the first stitch on your needle like that. And that is going to pull that stitch up and twist it. I'm going to show you on the finished scarf what that twisting that stitch looks like on the right side of the fabric. And we've got it right here. That's what that's going to look like. So after the TWK2 tog, we're going to knit 9 stitches normally. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we're going to do that same technique, okay? So I'm on my wrong side. I'm going to look over at my right side. I'm going to find the top right there of the longest stitch back there. Pick up that purl bump, twist it and slide it back on the working needle or on the left needle, and then knit it together with the next stitch. Knit 2 together. So that's the TW's twist. And then knit 2 together. So I picked up that stitch, twisted it, and knit it together with the next stitch on my needle. Now I'm going to knit 9. I'll do this all the way across. You end up doing this 4 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, here we go again. Find the top of the longest elongated stitch right here. Twist it, slide it on, and then knit those 2 together. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Come back here, find the top of the longest stitch right here, twist it, slip it on that needle, knit those 2 together, and then knit 3. 1, 2, oh look, I split my yarn. Okay, fix that right there. 2 and 3. Okay, now we're gonna go back and look at the right side of our work. And you'll see where these twisted stitches are. That one's kind of hard to tell because of the dark yarn, but let's look at this one. It's a little bit lighter. See how that's coming up from the center? It looks a little off just because they don't line up evenly because you're from back to front. But by grabbing the top of the longest elongated stitch and twisting it, it cinches up these garter rows. And I'll show you on the finished after blocking what that looks like. So if you look right over here, these are the garter row ridges that we did, and here are the twisted stitches, and they kind of just cinch that up a little bit to give it another wave look, like that. That's how we make the twisted smock stitch. On the pattern, you'll see rows 33 through 448. Basically what that is you are repeating rows 1 through 32 14 times. After you finish that, then you're going to do a portion of the section. You're going to repeat rows 1 through 24 once more. That gives you a more symmetrical look on both sides of your scarf. From there, you go back to garter stitch edging, same as we did when we first started, 6 more rows of knitting each row. And then you go ahead and cast off, and I'll show you how to bind off now on my little sample here. It's pretty simple. You knit through the stitch. There's one, you knit through the second stitch, then you lift the first stitch up and over. Knit the next stitch, knit the first stitch, or pick up the first stitch and lift it up and over the second stitch. You'll go ahead and finish through the whole entire 36 stitches doing that, binding off. Then you'll cut your yarn, slide it through, weave in your ends, and then we're ready to block. Okay, so now we are ready to block. I have this little sample here so I can show you how this changes when it's blocked. So like right now, it looks really nice, but it's gonna look so much better after blocking. Okay, for this, we're gonna use room temperature water like always. You wanna use some kind of wool wash in here. You let your project soak. I usually like to let mine soak for 30 minutes, but 15 should be good enough. For on here, I'm just gonna set it down here and get it super wet. Once you have let it soak and you're ready to get the water out of it, don't wring it, please don't wring it. You wanna squeeze, get the water out. You wanna use a towel to help wick out the extra water. Okay, so look how stretchy this is, how much this is changing. This is the superwash merino wool. There's 90% in here, so it is gonna move around. But once it dries, it goes back into its shape. But I don't want you to freak out when you get it all wet and you are like, oh my goodness, look at this, it's all distorted. It's okay, we'll get it back to where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna lay it down in my towel, and I'm using the towel to wick out that extra water. And roll it up into here. Squeeze the towel so it'll grab the extra water out. Okay, now here we go. And it's a little flimsy, but this is lace work, essentially, with those drop stitches. So we want to open those up and make them nice and pretty. So I have my blocking mat here, and I have these nice little blockers. This is from Mindful Knitting. And I'm going to pin these. And I'm kind of going in just a smidgen because I don't want to be on the very edge of the work. But this, when it dries, it will shrink back up. But I want to open up these stitches as much as possible. Now for yours will be, when it's dry, mine came out to be 6.5 inches. I guess I should do it this way. 6.5 inches this way and about 63 inches this way. And, but when I first, as you can see here, block it, it's much longer and wider. After it dries, it shrinks back up, and that's perfectly fine. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here. Let this dry overnight. 4 to 6 hours for this thickness of yarn is usually all it'll take. And then once it's dry, you're ready to wear it. Once your scarf is completely dry, it'll be ready to wear. Enjoy the sparkle and the shine of the Wave on Wave scarf. Thank you so much for knitting along with me as we made this wave on wave scarf. I enjoyed writing this pattern and figuring out the stitch patterns to use. This drop stitch and twisted smock stitch is really fun, and it shows off the Madeline Tosh Merino Light plus Copper Fancy Yarn. Remember, you can get a kit with the yarn and the pattern at onebighappy.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below and click the bell to be notified every time we have a new video. Happy knitting!